I'm Charlie Van Dyke, counting down America's 40 biggest hits for Casey Kasem this week. Now, we're up to the first chart record for the man who, when he was 5 years old, was the inspiration for the biggest song the Beatles ever had. It's a story about a broken marriage and a 5-year-old boy. And it all happened shortly after John Lennon and his first wife, Cynthia, had separated. But this story really belongs to Paul McCartney. See, Paul was upset by the breakup of John and Cynthia Lennon. Now, here's the way he tells it. I drove out to Cynthia Lennon's just after she and John had split up. I was very good friends with their son, Julian. He was a nice kid, Julian. I was driving out in my car, just vaguely singing this song to him. And it was like, Hey Jules. I don't know why Hey Jules, it was just the thing, you know. And then I just thought a better name would be Jude. End of quote. Well, that song went on to become the biggest hit the Beatles ever had. Here's a short piece of that song that Paul McCartney wrote for Julian Lennon.
Hey Jude, don't make it bad.
That song spent 9 weeks at number 1 back in 1968. And Hey Jude became the biggest number 1 in the incredible career of the most amazing group ever, the Beatles. Well, this week, the young boy who inspired Hey Jude debuts in the top 40 with his first hit. Here's Julian Lennon, now 21 years old, sounding a lot like his father, the late John Lennon, debuting at number 33 with Volat.
American Top 40, Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem. Now we're up to the hit by Julian Lennon, son of the late John Lennon and his first wife, Cynthia. Julian was born in England in 1963. He was named for his grandmother, Julia Lennon. Julian, who's now 21 years old, doesn't remember a lot about the early days of Beatlemania back in the 1960s because he was only a toddler. But even as a child, he did inspire some of the Beatles' most famous songs. In 1968, Paul McCartney wrote Hey Jude for him to ease the pain when John and Cynthia Lennon divorced. And then there was another Beatle hit. Julian told writer Brant Newborn, "When I was 5, I came walking up to my dad with a watercolor painting I'd done. It was just a bunch of stars and this blonde girl I knew at school. And Dad said, 'What's this?' I said, 'It's Lucy in the sky with diamonds.' And well, you know the rest." End of quote. When John later married Yoko Ono and moved to New York, Julian saw less of his father. Julian lived in London and was a wild teenager. He was all over the London gossip papers. He says, quote, "Now I've got a brain. I used to be a bit loose in the head. I didn't think much. Now I think too much." Julian started playing guitar and piano in his teens. That's when he started listening to Beatle music and other sounds. Last year, he recorded some demo tapes at a French chateau called Volat. Those demo tapes got him a contract with a British label. And that chateau became the name of his debut album. Now, 21-year-old Julian Lennon has his first hit here in the U.S. At number 18 this week on American Top 40, here's Julian Lennon with the title song from that album, Volat.
Sitting on the doorstep of the house again to fall.
American Top 40.
Now on American Top 40, we're up to the man who inspired a song by the Beatles before he was even born. So who else could it be but Julian Lennon, the son of the late John Lennon? Julian's mother, Cynthia Powell, and John Lennon were dating and were married before the Beatles became the group heard round the world. Cynthia became pregnant in July 1962, the same year she and John were married. And he'd written a song about his wife's condition, a song that the Beatles recorded in February 1963. One line goes, "I've known a secret for a week or two. Nobody knows, just we two." George Harrison sang this hit song. Listen.
Do you want to know a secret? Do you promise not to tell?
In 1964, it went to number 2 in the USA, Do You Want to Know a Secret by the Beatles, a song written by John Lennon, inspired by Julian Lennon before he was born. Julian Lennon, who grew up to become a recording artist. He's at number 26 with his second hit song, Too Late for Goodbyes.
American Top 40.
I'm Casey Kasem, counting them down. The song at number 15 is the second hit for Julian Lennon. Recently, Julian talked with the British magazine Record Mirror about his music and to what extent it's been influenced by his father. He said, quote, I don't think my style's that similar. When I listen to his stuff and my stuff, obviously there's a 60s, 70s style to it, but it's not that immediate. I was influenced by the Beatles. I'm also influenced by people like Steely Dan, Keith Jarrett, The Police, Kate Bush, and Frank Zappa. End of quote. Now, here is the sound of Julian Lennon. He climbs 2 notches to number 15 with Too Late for Goodbyes.
The hits from coast to coast.
We're on our way to the number 1 song in the USA. Now, listen to this. Listen to the singer and to the drummer.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Sitting in the la-la, waiting for the ya-ya.
The singer on that recording was John Lennon. It was a very impromptu version of the song that was once a hit by Lee Dorsey called Ya Ya. The track appeared on John Lennon's 1974 album Walls and Bridges, and the drums were played by an 11-year-old kid, John's son, Julian Lennon. Today at 23, Julian says he's a little embarrassed about that drum performance. He told writer Vic Garbarini, quote, "I had come to New York for a short visit with no idea my dad was making an album. So he dragged me along to the studio, which was great. He just sat down at the piano and started to play. And there was a snare drum and some sticks lying there, so I tried to keep time with him. It wasn't a conscious effort to get in time or in tune. If I'd known I was being taped, I would have tried harder." End of quote. That's Julian Lennon's story of his first recording, playing drums on a shortcut on his father's 1974 album, Walls and Bridges. This week, Julian's in our countdown with his 4th top 40 hit. He doesn't play drums anymore, plays keyboards and sings, and he knows he's being recorded. Here's hit number 4 for Julian Lennon. Stick around.
American Top 40.
These are the 40 biggest hits in the 50 states. Now we're up to the hit song by Julian Lennon, a young man who lost his father at a critical age, just as he was getting to know him. Julian was 17 years old when his superstar father, John Lennon, was shot and killed in 1980. John and Julian's mother, Cynthia, had divorced when Julian was a little boy, and it wasn't until his mid-teens that Julian was able to start spending much time with his dad. And then, John was killed. How did Julian handle it? Not well. First, he dropped out of school in Liverpool and went to work in a restaurant washing dishes. He says, "My mom couldn't handle me anymore. I used to bring people back to the house every night and blast music." In 1982, Julian moved out and went to live in London. He began hitting the nightclubs, drinking too much, partying all night. And the newspapers, especially the scandal sheets, covered it in full. Julian says that was the only way he knew how to cope with his grief. He was quoted then as saying, "There are times I wish I was Joe Average. I'm getting publicity for all the wrong reasons." By 1983, Julian realized he wanted to make music just as his father had. His period of mourning was finally over. It was time to get on with his own life. But Julian told writer Anthony de Curtis, "There still is a shadow. I mean, Dad's shadow covers all of us, but it's not something I'm trying to get away from. I'm proud of it." End of quote. At number 32, here's Julian Lennon with Stick Around.
The hits from coast to coast.